Hello, this is Lisa LaRose here on Connect to Love on PRNFM, and I am joined by Michael J. Russ, the most amazing co-host I could even think of. I am so happy to welcome you, Michael. You inspire me every week, and every time we have a conversation. And you know, I think it's the power of positive thinking and the magnetic like attracts like. You sent me a quote, and I'm going to let you read that first because I had something to add into it. But I'd love for you just to kick off with what you inspired this week's topic for.
No kidding. Yeah, I mean, listen, thank you so much for that wonderful opening. You're just as big an inspiration to me in this world, and it's wonderful. Big time pleasure to always do this show with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely. This particular quote comes from a good friend of mine who listens to our podcast, Cynthia, and she's wonderful. She's a very loving being. And I want to read it for you. It says, "Your mind is a magnet. If you think of blessings, you attract blessings. And if you think of problems, you attract problems. Always cultivate good thoughts and always remain positive and optimistic. We get what we think. So think positive. Life will be automatically positive." That's the quote. And
that's beautiful.
That's the truth. Absolute truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that we, it was back about, I wrote my first self-talk book back in 1998 called Powerful Self-Talk. And it was kind of a revelation for me because it was an extension from a book I did previously to that, which was called Powerful Golf for people who play golf. It was a book for managing your mind when you're out on the course, based on concepts that were life concepts. And self-talk at that particular time was a chapter, and I finished the book with, because I realized how I had been talking to myself while I was writing the book. I was playing for about 6 months, about 3 or 4 times a week, and I was utilizing the concepts and ideas that I was writing in the book. So I'd go play, and I'd come back and write, and I'd go play, and I'd come back and write. And I was able to improve my game if I were to give it a percentage, in 6 months, I went from 11 index to an 8, which is very challenging to do in that period of time. Played some of the best golf up to that point in my life I'd ever played. And all I did was simply change what was going on in my mind. That's all I did. And, I use golf as a metaphor all the time, so let's just simply say whatever it is that you do, that you enjoy as a hobby, or maybe you do it as a profession, the way that you talk about yourself in relationship to what it is that you have to do, the actions you have to take, really is a huge determining factor in your outcome, in your actual performance, your moment-to-moment performance. And the World Cup is on right now as we're recording this, and as we're doing the show, and it's amazing how some of the teams some of the biggest teams in the world, including the U.S., are no longer in the tournament. And it's some of the teams that didn't have much of a chance, according to the pundits, the sports pundits, that are doing really well. And so I always, when I see things like that, I always wonder, what's the mindset when they go out there with the underdog that goes out against the big dog? What are they thinking? I mean, do you think to yourself, they're bigger than we are, faster than we are, better than we are? We're just going out, we'll do the best we can? Or are you saying to yourself, we can do this. We can win this thing. All we have to do is do this, and this. Just execute. And we will make it happen. We can make it happen. We are going to make it happen. And do they get themselves riled up by that kind of inner conversation? Or are the thoughts of pessimism or doubt? Regardless of how you approach a project, thinking that you can do it goes a long way to whether you actually do it. And and this is the beautiful thing about life, is that you have to it doesn't cost you anything. I say this all the time. You know, we always attach monetary amounts to things that we have to do, and it costs nothing to change your mind. It costs nothing to think positive. Absolutely nothing at all. Yet, if you were to put a dollar amount on what positivity actually helped you accomplish, I bet you'd be a billionaire. It's amazing. It's
absolutely
amazing.
Right.
You know, so that's what I love about it. So what's your quote?
Yeah. Well, you know, before I get into that, I just wanted, because you brought up the athletes, and a while back you and I had talked about mirror neurons and the research of Giacomo Rizzolatti, who was a professor of human psychology or physiology in Italy. And what he found was, and I think it's really appropriate to what you're talking about, how our neurons, we don't actually even have to be performing the activity. We can observe and we can watch, and be in our brains will entrain and mirror what is being projected. So as you said, if you are in the World Cup and you are with you have a team that are being cheered on and just have the momentum, they may not be the best players in the game, but because they are in a stadium where there's a lot of excitement and whatever, they may rise to the occasion. And mirror neurons, I think also give us the opportunity, as you said, to empathize with another person, to feel the blessings, to feel the positivity. If you are positive, I feed off of that. If you came in with lower energy, it would just, I don't think we would have the joyful conversations that we do. And so recognizing that and really observing our feelings and what we're mirroring to other people, I had to go into the city today, to the city county building, and it's interesting because sometimes the encounters or the perceptions of the people behind the glass is maybe not so helpful. The woman behind the glass for me today had a beautiful smile, and she was just so pleasant, and she made everything so effortless. And I said to her, thank you. You know, you greeted me with a beautiful smile. Your kindness is overwhelming. She made something that you think, oh, I'd have to go down there and deal with that. And everything was just so easy. A friend of mine said, you know what, I'm just on my way through the city. I'll stop by and pick you up. You don't even have to pay for parking. I'll ride around the block. She found a parking spot. I called her when I was done. She picked me up, and I was back before you knew it. And I think that that's exactly what, you know, the mind is, as a magnet, is doing. I wanted something with ease and grace, and that's exactly what I got. That's the experience. But when you go into something, even if it's something as daunting as the World Cup, thinking, well, you know, we're really not as good as that other team, we don't have a chance. Of course, you don't have a chance, because you're going to send those messages to everybody else on the team. And so the quote that I had, when you sent that to me, I thought, who is that? Who is that attributed to? But I found one. It wasn't exactly that quote, but it was actually Carlos Santana. He said, your mind is a magnet. You don't attract what you need or what you want. You attract who you are. And I love who I am. And I was like, wow, I love who I am. Beautiful. And how's that for something to mirror back at you? I love who I am.
It's fantastic. Actually, that's a beautiful quote from Carlos Santana as well. Yeah, you mirror back. It's interesting. It reminds me of something Carol said. My guide actually said that about mirroring when you love your life. Loving yourself, loving your life is who you are. When you love your life, when you love life, loving your life is who you are. And I sit and think about that. It's almost like a little conundrum. Like, wait a minute. When I love my life, loving my life. When I love life, period. Okay, and it's all about the love being the thread we keep talking about that runs through absolutely everything. And how when we love our existence, we love everything about what's going on, then how easy it becomes then for that to just literally bleed into every aspect of your own personal life, which it absolutely fascinates me, because there's so many things. Life comes at us, it seems, exponentially fast, as opposed to 50 years ago, or even 40 years ago, or 20 years ago. We things are just happening so quickly because of how quickly information is disseminated. We can be impacted quickly by something that just happened on the other side of the world 5 minutes ago. And
sure.
as I told somebody the other day, I said, if you really think about it, okay, if you set a positive mindset for yourself every morning, you're going to have the most amazing day. Your life is absolutely fabulous. If that's your mindset, then what is it that disrupts that mindset? What has the potential to disrupt that mindset? And really, 9 times out of 10, it's things that are happening to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Things that are happening to other people. There's nothing wrong with being empathetic. I think it's one of the top things that everybody needs to be is compassionate and empathetic. However, that said, we have to understand that things are happening to other people for reasons that are way beyond our thought process, ability to comprehend. And because there's a greater meaning to this whole wonder we call life, and life on this planet, life in this plane. And we have to make sure that we are not allowing something outside of us to dictate what's going on inside of us, and what is disrupting our focus on positivity for ourselves, what the frequencies that we're resonating, and understand that we all have the capability to control this. This is a choice. We have free will to decide how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about our lives. And this is something we have to remember, especially when things outside of us that really have nothing to do with us and our lives, if we think about it, begin to disrupt what it is that we're thinking and what we're feeling. This is a constant thought process for me, because my job, my mission every morning when I get up is to connect with my guide, remain positive, and kind of just see what unfolds, see what serendipity occurs today, and not tell myself this is going to be a hard day. It's going to be a hard week of work. This is what people do, right? This is going to be, I have to go to work. This is going to be a hard week. It's going to be a tough week. It's going to be, it's just, I'm gonna hate this week, and I can't wait till the weekend. Like, what?
I know,
you've
already your life away, right?
Yeah, you've already danced all over the grave of the week, right? You danced you just literally just threw the week under the bus, so to speak, and before it even started, not even understanding or knowing what's going to happen. Why can't there be positive things that happen? Why can't we focus on those things that are positive that happen and let the negative ones just go by? We have a tendency to telegraph the week by what we begin to say Monday morning or Sunday night. And we have the choice to say Sunday night, it's going to be an incredible week. It really is. This is an awesome week for me. I don't know what kind of good things are going to happen, but I know there's going to be wonderful things that occur. People I meet, conversations I have, hugs that I didn't think I would get that I've gotten, hugs that I've given and enjoy, and I've received so much joy from it. I mean, listen, all kinds of things can occur.
I know, you're a hugger like me. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I love it.
It is. There's
an amazing thing.
Nothing like connecting heart to heart, right?
Yeah. The stories that we hear about somebody standing on the street corner and with a sign that says "free hugs," it's at first some of you might think, oh, it's negative. They just want to they touch people. It's like, come on, where are you going with that? The fact is that human beings need touch. And the average human being has no touch, gets no touch throughout the day. Isn't that amazing? It's one of our biggest needs, yet it goes completely unheeded. It's amazing that is the case. And so I like to give hugs. I like to be touchy-feely in a positive way, in a loving way, and that's it's pretty amazing. I don't know if you've heard of this before, but my girlfriend's in a restaurant business, so she told me this a number of years ago. But she said the waiters who are positive and connect through touch with the people they're serving get like 33% more tips.
Wow.
Yeah. When you literally put a hand on the shoulder and say, thank you very much, I really do appreciate that, or yes, I'll take care of that for you, and just gently have a touch on the shoulder, it's amazing. It's like this, it leads to amazing things. Now, that's in a situation where you are being of service to someone, you are making a connection with somebody, generally for the first time. I know the waiters and the servers that we encounter, where the restaurants that we frequent, we're always giving hugs and kisses. It's like a kiss on the cheek and a big hug, and we love them, and because they make us feel good. They bring joy to our meal, and a good server will do just that, bring joy to your meal. You'll want to hug them before you even leave. You'll be like, oh, God, you made my experience so amazing. That's something that you just, if you think about that for out of restaurant situation and other situations in life, I touch people all the time. I've never had anybody. I touch a shoulder, I'll touch a back. I'll go, fantastic. When I get done playing golf with people, I shake their hand, bring them close, give them a little hug, because I really enjoyed the experience. And it's not like I have to say anything. I just really enjoyed it.
There's a saying that says your hands are the messengers of your heart. And when you were talking about that, Michael, it made me think about that, because when you touch somebody with your hand in a kind, gentle fashion, there is a connection there, and it does send electrical signals from that person, from your heart to theirs. And I don't care if it's just a kind gesture. Being half Italian, I see that all the time. And when I think that I don't know, I think it's that connection to humanity. I think we've talked about this before, that we've become so automated, and I prefer not to choose an automated checkout line if I can engage with a human being.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something healing in that connection as well.
Excuse me. Yeah. Well, at the grocery store, there's a 4 automated checkers, but there's someone there to oversee them. And if I use one of those, I make sure that I engage with them first. I do. I engage with them first. Hey, how are you doing? I look at their name badge and I call them by name. Hey, Lola, how you doing? Hey, you having a great day? They smile. I smile back to them and give them some love. And if I've been in there before and seen them, a dozen times, I'll give up to them and I'll give them a little side hug and say, hey, I hope everything's going great for you today. And then I'll go use the machine and check out and say goodbye to them by name when I leave. There's different ways to be creative with that process. I know I get to know the butcher. I get to know the person behind the fish counter. Again, the people in the fruits and vegetables section, so I can ask them. I ask them questions. How's things going? How's life? What's local? Today. What's local this season? And they never have anybody. They're like invisible. And I don't think they really want to be invisible. They have a lot of knowledge, and I enjoy bringing that knowledge out of people by engaging with them in a very positive way. Leave people better than you found them. That's my motto.
Absolutely. Well, and there again, you're engaging those mirror neurons. They say with the mirror neurons, if you want to be successful, read success stories and really fill your energy field with stories of success. And I think the same goes true for anything that you want to really bring into your life, because your brain is recording those, and whether you lived or not. And that's one thing I love about audiobooks or books in general. I mean, I just immerse myself in them, and I can relate to a lot of them. The one book that really impacted me was Homeless to Billionaire, and just his story of why he was so driven, because he wanted to create a different life for his mother. She stood by him through all of these different challenges, and he's like, okay, well, I'll do that, and I can try that, and then one thing led to another, and it was just such a wonderful book. And I think to myself, well, I don't need to be homeless, but and I don't necessarily need to be a billionaire, but why limit myself? Whatever it is, there's a lot that I could do with that. I'd love to set up a trust for animals, to help homeless animals, or help people that are trying to do that, or help other people in need. If there was a food shortage somewhere, you'd be able to send food, whatever it is. I mean, those dollars enable you to do that at a greater scale. Everybody can do it on a smaller. Mm-hmm.
What I just thought of when you said that is the fact that it is, when we hear these stories, it's not, we get this idea of it instills this, I should say, if he can do it, I can do something just as amazing, something just as incredible. It's not that I'm going to do the same exact thing, because their story is not your story. And we all have different talents and gifts and interests, and we all grow up with different experiences. So for me, I love those kinds of stories because they are inspirational to and they give you, is it a feeling that you get where I can do anything. I feel so great about life after hearing this, and we just have to remember those stories when we hear the opposite. There was something that I heard recently. There are a lot of people who are downtrodden, who raise downtrodden. Basically, the concept is, if you start applying this to life, this gentleman went from homeless to billionaire, that transformation. If you're looking at transforming a whole culture, you have to look at the next generation, because there's a reason why the current generation is as it is. Part of it is their own thought processes. Part of it is a combination of that and what they've been subjected to, or what they thought was possible. You basically need to convince the next generation that get them understanding that more is possible, that they can do whatever they want with themselves and their lives. They need to be exposed to different things than the previous generation. And then you get, it's kind of like this, there's the first person in a family to go to college. Basically what college does is expose them to other people, other cultures, information that they wouldn't have otherwise received if they'd stayed at home. So now they know that something different than what their parents knew. And they know that more is possible. They know that there's other things out there, other ways of living. And so that particular person is going to shift and change that entire family because of what they now know, because of the experiential wisdom that they gained from leaving and going to school. And you don't have to necessarily go to college. You can go to another city and work. You can go to another country. You can do whatever. All these things are part of it. They kind of like building blocks to shifting and changing and understanding what is possible. And meeting people who were positive. Maybe you grew up in a household where everybody on the street, including your own family, was negative. So you're going to, if you stayed there, that's all you would know. Sure. And if you had kids, you would give them the same thing. They'd be exposed to the same thing, and that's all they would know. And so changing the world, making the world more loving, more empathetic, more compassionate, happier, more joyful, in my view, begins with exposing people like we are exposing our public through this radio show to different ways to embrace love, different ways to show it, to demonstrate it, to feel it, to generate it from within. I mean, literally, to the information that we provide may be the only source of information like this that our listeners have, and now they know they have it, and now they can use it. And that, to me, that's one of the reasons I do this show, because we're reaching someone. I don't care if it's one person or 1,000 people. It doesn't make a difference. If we can change one person's life for the better, I'm there. You know, I'm satisfied.
Yeah,
you know?
Me too. Yeah, and I think when you were talking, Michael, it reminded me of in the Native American culture, many young men would go on a vision quest where they would go out into the wilderness, and they would stay there until they received guidance of their inner vision, I guess is the best way to word it.
Yeah.
And in modern culture, there you can still. I think there's different groups that still do vision quests and people have different experiences. But I think that's exactly what you're speaking like. You're in a tribe. We don't think of our family as a tribe, but it is. And so you're so shaped by all of the beliefs and everything. And it's not until you walk outside of that comfort zone that you are exposed to a lot of different things. And, you know, I think, too, when you're in an environment where sometimes people complain. Somebody might be complaining that they don't like the food on the table, but they might recognize the fact that they have food on the table, and there may be people somewhere in a shelter that don't have that opportunity, whether it be, or, you know, complaining, as you said, about an education. Oh, you know, I got to go to school again. Well, in parts of the world, when I was in Africa, they didn't have any books. I was so amazed when I was at this one school, and I was thinking, well, where are all the children's books? And so when I got home, I packed up. I said, oh, you know what? I have so many books at home that would be appropriate for children. And I packed them up and I sent them 2 big boxes of books. And you know, it's just the things that are we're so blessed with in this country that we really do take for granted. And it ties into, again, those same things, you know. So, you know, being thankful, you know, brings in, if you use your mind as a magnet, I believe brings in more blessings.
Right. Right. Giving creates more joy. Joy in the giving, and then joy. Give once, receive twice. And it's such a beautiful story about the books. What's interesting is that it's a great example of, again, being exposed to something completely different. We could apply that to food. How we have grocery stores that are just full of food, and there are parts of the world that, you know, no, man, there's you get 5 miles from here maybe food, but not here. Or crops or drought or, you know, things that are occurring that are destroying food faster than they can create it. It's interesting, and what is interesting about that is how we perceive other cultures. And I can only use my own experiential wisdom and the fact that my parents took us out of this country in the mid-'60s to parts of the world that were destitute, that were, you know, that had high poverty rates, that didn't have indoor plumbing and didn't have indoor running water. And so that shaped me when I was a kid. And I know that, like traveling to Africa, that helped shape you. I find it's interesting how a lot of inner city kids have never been to a museum. They've never been out of the 3 square blocks that they live in. And there was a woman who had a nonprofit in Los Angeles. She was a public worker, and she started this nonprofit to get kids out of the inner city, just literally take them, you know, 10 miles away from where they lived, to go to a museum or go to a park, see something different than what they saw every single day, which was, for them, what they were experiencing they're trapped in thought viruses, trapped in what couldn't be accomplished, what couldn't be done, failures of other people, and how they were bombarded by you can't do this, you'll never be able to do that because you live here, because you're this color, or you're this, or you live there, or you went there, you went to the school, whatever it might be. They were trapped in those thought viruses every day, day in and day out, and being propagated by friends and family and peers and everyone else. And as soon as they got out, they walked into a museum and they're like, "What? Wow, this exists." You know, it's kind of like how I used to be a president of a museum in California for about 4 years, and it was it was one of my during another life that I had for myself. I was president of the board of directors, but there was it was a historical museum for Sacramento. The History Museum is downtown Old Sacramento. Is a great place, preserved a lot of history in the town, and during Black History Month, they would have these talks about black inventors and the like, and it's this interesting story. The term the golf tee was invented by a black man. The golf tee, was invented by a black man. And let's see, I don't drink Jack Daniels, but the Jack Daniels recipe is from a black man.
Really? I didn't know that. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and his granddaughter has a very, very big distillery and grounds in Kentucky, in Louisville, Kentucky. And she's doing very, very well. She's got the largest bar in the world, 200 seats.
Wow.
Yeah, a 200-seat round bar with food that is phenomenal,
I can't even
spectacular,
imagine.
farm
you can't
to
really
table.
See, like, pass me something from the other end of the bar.
Pass me, exactly. You need a little train car to get it to them. But it's interesting. I mean, there are so many things. Great story. I don't know if it's probably a term that you and I would know, but not a lot of people around the world. But there's a term called the real McCoy. There was a term called the real. I know you know what I'm talking about. Whenever you came across something that was real and not fake, you would call it the real McCoy. Is this a real McCoy? You ask them, is this a real McCoy? And they go, yeah, this is it. This is the real McCoy. It's the real thing, right? And that term came from a gentleman, a black gentleman, back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s, who was a factory worker, and there was this a problem with lubricating bearings on machinery, and he invented a bearing that was evidently self-lubricated, and it works really, really well, and he did well in selling his invention. There were a group of non-black, let's call it white, a gentleman who stole his idea and went out and knocked it off. And it didn't work so well. They were just in it for the money. And
but that was karma too.
Yeah, that is true.
Idea, right?
Now, it's true. The black man, his name was McCoy. So you say,
interesting.
To say, when the machine was presented, the manufacturer would say, "Is this the real McCoy? Is this the real McCoy? Is this the real machine, or is this the real McCoy machine, or is this?" And so it became this whole thing about this terminology that was then put towards, is this the real thing? Is this a knockoff, or is this real? Is this the original? And it really kind of interesting. Little stories like that I embraced over the years as I was in the museum, and the Black Indian trackers that actually came in, guided people to Sacramento over the mountains from the East Coast, and were able to, then they settled there, and they had generations there, and there's a whole underlying history. When you start learning about it, and the reason I'm talking about this simply is because it's just one example of when you learn about what other people who look like you have done, right, and how they've succeeded through hardships and other things, it actually it creates this shift in perception of what you're capable of, just naturally, right? It's that whole mirroring neuron things, the situation that you're talking about. It's everywhere, and I love to look at this sort of thing in a conscious way, not a walking around subconsciously just doing things. I like to pay attention to when I'm exposed to something like this. That that sparks me. I look for those kinds of things instead of just letting them pass by and not giving them any recognition in your own mind, because it's really they're everywhere.
It truly, sometimes and no pun intended, but there's hidden gems. I think anywhere you look. My dogs watch this movie Madagascar, and there's no water. They start digging, and they're like, oh, they keep digging, and then it's like, oh, more diamonds and gold. Like, we don't want that. We want water.
Right, but, right. I love that movie. And all three of them I love.
I know.
They are the funniest movies. They are the funniest movies. They
are. I know. And I catch something. I mean, they play over and over and over again. So at different points, I'm like, oh, I didn't hear that before.
Exactly.
But, when I was in Detroit a few years ago, I went for a really unique conference, and the friend of mine went with me. She wanted to go to the Bead Museum in Detroit, and I was like, well, I've never heard of the Bead Museum.
Yeah.
So we went there, and it was fabulous. I mean, it was sort of like very eclectic. I didn't really know what to expect, but the owner, the curator, his name is Mr. Dobby, was one of the founding members of the African American Sports Hall of Fame, which I thought was really interesting. And I didn't expect the founder of the museum to actually be working there in the store. And it was really interesting because what he explained with the beads, it's like, yes, these are beads, but he said they were actually like a language that could be read by anyone without saying anything. And I thought to myself, when you were talking, I don't know what sparked my memory about this, but it's kind of like the same thing, like a mirror neuron. Like you in sync with somebody mentally, energetically. You don't really have to say anything, but you can look at somebody and go, yeah, that restaurant right there, that looks good. Or, yeah, let's plan on this. Or, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you. How did you just popped up around the corner. You run into them, and you were just thinking of them that way. But I really love it because it's, there's so many things like that are really, truly hidden gems. And it's not the things like the diamonds and the gold that are unearthed. It's something that is seemingly as common as water and how important that is.
Water's precious. And I love the movies because those three movies actually, there's a lot of that kind of thing in those movies. That things that a lot of those kinds of circumstances where you're looking past what we would say, oh gosh, when you're looking for water, you want water because you know that it doesn't make any difference whether you have all the money in the world. If you got no water, you're not going to survive. You're not going to thrive. Mm-hmm. And all the money there won't go buy water because you won't make it to wherever it is that you need to buy water from because you'll die first because of dehydration because you didn't do it. So it's a beautiful. There's lots of these little allegories in these movies that I think are absolutely fantastic. There's when we're looking at this particular the quote that I read, I just looked at it again here as you were talking that it's positive and optimistic, thinking of blessings. These are like a lot of this is how we perceive ourselves and perceive our day and our life. We have this perception about what we think is possible, the limitations, or perceptions about our own limitations, perceptions about what of the success we're perhaps capable of, And I fight this all the time. I fight it all the time on the golf course, not with me, but I fight this concept that people have of who limit themselves as far as their own abilities. We have the ability to do far more than we give ourselves credit for. However, because perhaps we haven't taken the risk, perhaps we haven't put our necks on the line, or we haven't put ourselves out there to actually work for that success or to achieve that success, we don't believe it's possible within us. And movies like what you're just talking about,
Madagascar.
When they're Madagascar 1, 2, and 3. Those kinds of movies, and there are many movies like this that help you see that things that you thought weren't possible are possible. And it's not just people like Simone Biles, who now I think she just won the championship, and she's going to go to the Olympics again next year in 2024 in Paris, after quitting and taking care of herself, her mental health, addressing that, getting her own perceptions and life perspective together. It makes her a much better person, and it makes her an exponentially greater athlete, in my view. Obviously kudos to her. I don't have any connection to her other than Instagram, and I've followed her a little bit in the past year, and it's been an amazing story, and she's still a positive spirit. Just want to address one thing. We want to make sure that we keep everything in perspective, that we have balance in life. Balance. Because it's not just about being positive. It's about being a realist and understanding that you have a choice to be positive or negative. It's not going around covering up, putting on a different face. Because to me, that's not authentic, right? If you're not feeling good, and there is I'm a big believer of fake it till you feel it. Been doing it for many, many years, and it's worked for me. However, when there's something seriously wrong, you need to believe in yourself and go get some help and be able to stay positive about the whole process. It's positive about the journey, I guess, is where I'm going with this. Not just, being positive for the sake of being positive. It's being positive and understanding that there is a positive side to every coin that you flip. And all you have to do is do your best to be on the positive side of it, to be optimistic about things versus pessimistic, to be happy about your life instead of sad. It's what you focus on. What you focus on creates who you are, creates your state of being, creates the life that's around you. What creates how you feel. And I applaud people who look at people like Simone Biles and other people. Now all of a sudden it's taken a while. It shouldn't have had to take so long, but in the sports world and the celebrity world now, those people who get a lot of face time and concert time, they're admitting that they're human, that they have foibles, and that they have mental health issues that they're addressing, through therapy or whatever means necessary. And these are people who have been portrayed as absolutely perfect by their publicists, because that's what they do. That's what they sell, right?
Right.
And nobody.
And that's how you get the advertising revenue, the contracts and things like that.
That's how you get it. It's your personality. You're selling an idea, a concept. That's what they do. They put together and sell a concept or idea, not thinking about the fact that you can be positive. However, we have to be, again, realistic and understand that if we're not feeling good, we've got to be positive about moving forward and taking care of that as well, not just shoveling it under the carpet until it becomes a huge incongruency in our life, and we have to, and we implode. we implode.
Right.
It's that balance.
Well, and right, and I think you're talking about too, like the vibrational harmony. That if you're not in harmony with what other people are feeding you, what you want, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And on a soul level or a heart vibrational level, you are not in resonance with it. It's going to create dissonance.
Right.
And for you to be able to be in a place where good vibes, going back to the Beach Boys, I'm putting off good vibrations,
Right.
And there's something about that song that makes you feel good.
Of course.
But you have to be in alignment with your inner truth, and I think that goes right along with your wonderful quote that you said in the beginning. Your mind is a magnet. If you think of blessings, you attract blessings.
Mm-hmm.
Think of problems, you attract problems. Always cultivate the good thoughts. Always remain positive, optimistic. And I do truly love that, Michael. I'm so glad that you brought that to the forefront, because it's there's a sense of having to be perfect. Somebody sees your faults. Somebody sees your failures. And I know you had brought up Ed Sheeran some time ago with me, and we'll do a whole other show on this, because the idea that it's okay to fail, it's such taboo. And then the pointing fingers. Did you see they didn't do that? They didn't achieve this mark? Well, you know what? The only person who can really measure that is you. And I think that you can only be the best that you can be.
Yeah. There is no the concept of failure, winning, losing, failure, lack, loss. These are, I guess I would call them falsities that are put out there to encourage people to or trick people into working harder mentally. I don't know. To me, that's kind of what it seems. I love that you what you just said there with regard to how the different take on what I said energetically, and in resonance. You have to be in resonance with what it is that you're doing. And I know that it's very easy to get into a situation where your drive is perhaps money, and now you've gotten involved with people who don't resonate with you. Yeah, there's opportunities for money, and money might be coming in, but the people who are you're working with, their resonance is different than yours. They have a different motivation for what it is that you're all doing. And this can happen. And then you run with it, you stick with it, and the incongruency will drive you crazy. At some particular point, it's going to impact you, and you're going to say, wait a minute, stop. I can't deal with this anymore. Or you'll cover up those feelings through drinking and drugs and other things that change your state of being, which I've seen a lot of in my life. People in situations that where they were caught up doing things with other people because they thought it was what they were supposed to do, to be like those other people, to be cool, right? And I looked at this gentleman one time. I was in Hawaii. I was living over there for a few months working with a company, and it was a private party business. And the DJ, it was a young DJ. He was like 18, 19, young guy. I could tell that he had not run with the crowd he's running with and that he's living with. And the guys that he was with were older. They've been doing the club DJing for a long time. These were guys that stayed up till 4 a.m. Playing music, because clubs could stay open till 4 a.m. at that particular point in time, and they'd go get breakfast and they'd go sleep all day. Mm-hmm. But to get to 4 a.m., it was Grand Marnier and Coke, Grand Marnier and Coke, Grand Marnier and Coke. That was from 10, 11 o'clock on. That's what they engaged in order to get themselves to 4 a.m. And this guy, this young man, I could see how I could just sense it, because I can get around people and I can just get a sense of them, that maybe they're out of place, maybe their thoughts, their feelings are incongruent with where they are. They're out of resonance, right? You're there. You're you're idolizing these guys. You want to do what they do. However, you don't have to do it the exact same way that they're doing it. But he was, and I'm like, my friend,
right.
you do realize that you're out of your element, right? That this is not you. This is not.
Right.
You don't have to do this. Just because they take drugs or whatever. And I hung out with them for a couple of days, and they were incensed by the fact that I didn't smoke pot. That's all they did all day.
Goodness.
Seriously. I'm like, what is the? It was like they looked at me thinking that something was wrong with me. Something was wrong with them because I didn't want to partake. I said, dude, I don't need that. That's all there is to it. I don't need it. You need it because evidently you need it for one reason or another. But I'm high on life. I don't need to. And I was 20. I was 21 at the time. I was 21 when I was over there doing this, and it's just amazing. And that's not the first or the last time. That wasn't the first, and it wasn't actually the last time that I've encountered that, because I've been in the music business a long time, and you run across people who are doing things, they're trying to fit in, and I've never wanted to fit in. I've never felt. If you cross a line like that, where you are doing something because other people are doing it because you think it's cool and because you want to fit in, you were in the wrong place.
Sure.
You need to be somewhere different. And because you're going to destroy yourself in the meantime.
Right. And that goes all the way back to self-love and raising the level of your own vibration and then being a magnet for what you want to bring in. And I think that when you show yourself the love and care that you deserve and really recognize the fact that, excuse me, we are our thoughts, words, feelings, actions, everything come together to write our own story. Excuse me.
Yeah, and we've got choices we can make.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can make choices. It's those choices that we make because we have free will. We can choose to or not to. We can decide how bad we want something, and if there are different paths to the same thing, and the path that we're on, if it's incongruent with how we feel about ourselves and our life, we can stop, take a step backwards, and seek a different path. It may not get us there as quickly as the path that was incongruent with us. However, we must understand that there are different ways to achieve the same thing. And I love it when there's various movies where this kind of thing plays out as well. That you can, and they're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. And a lot of the comical rom-coms and a lot of the comedies and comedy dramas that are out there kind of use this as a foundation in terms of storyline, which is really kind of interesting. Definitely so.
Yeah, and speaking of Madagascar, just a little note, because Will.I.am is in there, and every time I see that, because Will.I.am is William, right? But it's, and I think about that, the will of I am, and I'm thinking, like, what a fantastic name, and it goes in alignment with Carlos Santana. I love who I am. I am that I am, and so much of what we do, and recognizing that we are unique. I heard something the other day say, and I don't recall who it was, that when you are your own unique spark on this planet, and there is no other being that will ever be born in the same place at the same time, to the same parents, any of that, you are truly unique. And once you're gone, it's extinct, and you're not there anymore. And so, I thought about that. It's like, wow, you are this beautiful light, and here you are, and you've got all these gifts, and shine, shine, shine. Give everything you want to share all with the world, and give all to yourself that you need to share with yourself.
So let me ask you a question.
It's so precious. Mm-hmm.
How do we? It's kind of this conundrum. How do we reach kids at the impressionable time they need to understand that they can be this way? Understanding the concept of mirror neurons in a way that can be put to them in a very in a way that strikes the bullseye, so to speak. I mean, literally, you have the ability to be exposed to. Everyone can be exposed to it. It's just a question of how. Before the rest of the world and with the crushing thought viruses and environment that they're in and all that just kind of like sucks the inspiration, creativity, love, joy, and wellness right out of them. I mean, it's
right.
I sit around thinking about that sometimes and wondering what. Because there's way too much information out there, number one, way too much. So much so that you can think that what you're actually reading is the gospel when it really isn't. It's just something that somebody's putting out. But you're so hungry for how you can be happy, how you can love yourself and love your life around you. And a lot of it is just simply deciding to do so, choosing to do so. And understanding that there's an outside of you and there's inside of you, right? There's an outside of you, there's an inside of you. And everything going on outside of you, you control whether or not that impacts you or not. That's the basis of sovereignty. You're in control of you're the owner, the ruler, the overseer of your mind, your body, and your spirit. Nobody can impact, nothing or nobody can impact your mind, your body, and your spirit without your express permission. Yet, that is exactly what goes on day in and day out.
Yeah. Well, I jump on the love train. You inspired me. I know it.
Heard it
and
this morning.
It's through music. It's through maybe art. I think it's through certain movies like Madagascar that teach these principles.
Exactly.
Of sovereignty and whatnot, and that's and just a hope and a prayer that we do our own inner work and that we become a magnet for what it is that we be the change we wish to see in the world. Right.
Right. I think that's exactly right. And we can hope we can keep putting it out there, hoping that it reaches someone who can teach it to somebody else, and that's really all we can do. More than anything else. And I love doing the show with you. We got, I'm going to be traveling, so we got lots of shows to do and lots of great topics that we'll be bringing in the next couple of months. And this one's been, again, amazing. I thank you.
A gift, yeah. Thank you, too. Until next time, always be abundantly blessed and know you are love.
Absolutely.
And connected to love, right?
Yes.